Hi, I'm David Lee. I went from starting a business that's losing monies in a recession to now a multi-million-dollar business. And I'm known for collecting a lot of great Ferraris. And I guess I'm one of the passionate few.
Welcome to this episode of the Passionate Few podcast today. It's your host, Omar Elatar here, and today you're in for a treat because we get to sit down with none other than the number one most recognized $40 million Ferrari car collector on planet Earth, none other than David Lee. Known as being the CEO of Hing Hua Lee Jewelers, Dave is known because he's one of the largest authorized dealers of Rolex, Cartier, and AP, as well as a serial entrepreneur who's took his family's humble beginnings in the middle class coming from Hong Kong all the way to take his dad's original vision for a jewelry store and blow it up to the millions. And to date, Dave has had clients including people like DJ Khaled, Justin Bieber, Beyonce, Drake, Offset, Rihanna, and tons more, just to name a few. But in this interview, Dave shares with us how his three tenets to success, including hard work, perseverance, and integrity, led him to turn his passion for building business to his purpose and now serving people around the world to help inspire them to show them how they too can make their dreams a reality. So with no further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy this incredible interview with none other than the man, the myth, and the legend himself, business mogul, David Lee. Enjoy. Thanks so much for being on the show today, David.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Omar.
It's a pleasure, man.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you for having us here in this beautiful garage. And I want to say, congrats on all your success. I know there's millions of people around the world who follow you, who are inspired by your story. But before you became this, well-known Ferrari collector, David Lee, take us back to your childhood. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? And sort of where did entrepreneurship begin for you as a kid?
Well, I was born in Hong Kong. And so like any kid, I was just a kid out of Hong Kong and really immersed into the culture of Hong Kong. My father came from southern China with nothing. He started as an apprentice for gemstone carving. Eventually came out and started his own factory in 1965, which I would believe that is the date of the origin of our company, which now eventually became Hing Hua Lee Jewelers. But it was 1965. So our company is 56 years old until now. I'm the second generation. But as things would be, as life and destiny, my father was invited by the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. to come and do restoration on their antiques because he was a well-known gemstone carver by that time. So we came to the U.S. My father thought, hey, the U.S. is we have people kind of helping us. We can be in the U.S. It would be, maybe set up an office here. It would be good for business because we had a lot of American customers coming to Hong Kong buying from his factory. So we immigrated in the mid 70s. So I guess you can say in the East Coast for 3 years and then decided to come to the West Coast. So I've been grew up in the U.S. From that point on. Of course, it was a culture shock.
How old were you when you came to the U.S.?
About 9.
9,
yeah.
Okay.
So obviously it was a culture shock. I had to learn everything and dealt with a lot of the issues that we do in that time coming over. But so I grew up in the U.S. and then the schedule would be where the school year I'd be in the U.S. here, and I grew up in Whittier. That's where we stayed. And then in the summer, I would go back to Hong Kong to visit family. I'd be there for the whole summer. It was a good experience growing up because I think I understood and I grew up in both cultures relatively. Of course, I speak Cantonese, I speak Mandarin, but I also understand how Chinese people think, and so forth. But I grew up in a middle-class family. My father was very hardworking. He was, by that time, being a gemstone carver and also a fine jewelry wholesaler to a lot of the retail customers, the Cartiers, the Van Cleefs, the Gums, all throughout. So he was in wholesale. We had an office in downtown LA. But my learning really began in that process. I always helped my father. He, whenever I can, when I wasn't in school, at that time, I learned from him a lot of the ethics of how to do business. He was hardworking. I saw that. In a way, sometimes too much, because a lot of our business was Friday to Sunday, traveling to different places in the U.S. I didn't really get to see him and play with them and have that kind of childhood, right? But when I was with them, he always would try to teach me something, because in our communication, and maybe it's old school, his way of showing affection for me is to teach me something, preparing me for the future.
Yeah.
Okay. teach me all these different business lessons and how people are and what are the ethics, working hard, perseverance, integrity, those were, which I speak a lot about right now.
Were you close with him at that time, or were you kind of like, I don't want to get into the family business, or did you have any resistance to it, or were you kind of always
growing
close?
Growing up, it is what it is. I knew he had to work hard. He provided for us. I mean, we were, like I said, middle class, but certainly not like considered wealthy, middle class neighborhood and so forth. But it just understood that that's what he had to do to provide for a family. So obviously, I wanted to. Growing up, I wanted to be. I did have a drive to be wealthy, to be successful.
To collect Ferraris?
At that time, I didn't really. Well, that's a little bit later. I'll tell you about that.
Yeah.
But I did have a drive to be successful, and whatever that means. Okay.
Where did it come from? Where was the fire started for you?
Just, I think people, if they grew up in poverty, or even middle class, and wanting to, and seeing how parents work hard, seeing the struggles they've gone through, it's a natural drive that developed. Like, I don't want that for my family. I want to, and it felt like if I succeed, I would solve a lot of those problems, and then we wouldn't have that situation that we're in, right? So that's what I thought, but as I got older, interesting enough, when I was in college, I did not want to get in the family business because I at first I thought, well, if I did that, I would be going around like my father. I wouldn't really spend the quality time that I would with my children. Now, I understood why he did it. I still don't like it, right? And I remember the few times that he did spend time with me, in a Boy Scout camping, or when we had, when he was teaching me how to gemstone carve, or in the jacuzzi. I remember those few times that he spent with me, but it wasn't a lot of, because he was working. And I understood. But I didn't want that for myself. So at first, I really was reluctant about getting the family business. I wanted to start up my own business. I went to USC. I studied a business in the Marshall School of Business, which now I'm on the board of. But at that time, I was in the entrepreneur program, and I really wanted to start my own business and do that.
And what sort of entrepreneurial endeavors did you try before you decided to get into the family business?
Well, when I first came out, I had, like many others, you meet friends in school, and I had friends that family was in big business. They were a wealthy kind of family, right? In a lot of commodity type of, like halal chicken, steel, that kind of big business, And so I figured, okay, well, maybe I can be the commodity product trader. I have this contact with my friends. I just need to find the customers and link it together and do that. I found out it was a lot harder than I expected. I also got into a little bit of the food wholesale business, and I had a friend where Panda Express, where I could perhaps somehow do these kind of Panda Express concession everywhere that would be, that would facilitate for that. And just, buying and selling things, and stuff.
Did you have successes or mostly failures, or what was that?
I wouldn't say there were failures. On the commodity trading thing, I was a failure. Nobody wanted to trust a kid, for millions and millions of dollars business. Of course, I understand now later why, because people in this, they want consistency. They don't want fly by night. They don't want cheap prices. They're willing to pay a more expensive price for stability and solid situation. So that, I guess, didn't pan out, but I didn't lose money or anything like that on it. The other things I did, it was a learning experience. I'm glad I did those things. I wouldn't say I made a lot of money on it. It was just, I did something and
kept you going.
It kept me going, and so I wasn't failed. It's still a learning experience. I always say, when somebody says, they want to do a business, David, should you do this business? I say, first of all, you got to look at it three ways. You got to look at it as, would you be happy? Obviously, you'd be happy if it's a success. Obviously, would you be successful if it was halfway to your success point? And what if it's fair? Would you still be happy that you did it? If you were happy you did it because maybe you learned something, you went through that experience, and you gained something from it. Sometimes losing money and gaining that experience is if it's okay with you, then do it. You know, give it a try.
It's worth it in the
Yes,
short term.
Yeah. If it's totally not acceptable, you don't want to feel that way, then don't do it. Then don't take that risk, because that could happen.
Right.
You know, there's a percent of chance that it will happen.
Right.
So that's what I suggest people on that.
I love that. So be willing to fail with it. Like, what's an idea that you'd still, the process would still be worth it even if you fail?
Exactly.
It's funny you say that. I saw an interview with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak from Apple, where they talked about that. They said, well, you know, Steve, well, what if we fail? He said the experience still would have been worth it if we fail with Apple.
Sure.
And obviously we all know what happened with Apple.
Right.
But take me back. So where did you end up saying, you know what, I want to do things differently than my dad in the business? Because you kind of came in there and sort of revolutionized the business, which led to your success now.
Sure.
But take me back. How old were you? What was the conversation with your father?
Right.
And sort of where did everything change for you when you decided to go from your businesses to the family business?
So again, in the 80s, my father was pretty successful in his own right for doing the wholesale fine jewelry business, right? Bought a lot of real estate that he collected rent, very conservative, you know, apartment complexes.
So he started doing better and better.
He started doing better, but we still, I wouldn't consider us rich. It was just, you know, people have their investments, you know. I mean, I guess on the other way, some people, jewelers, would just continue to buy inventory and build up this big inventory and don't have other investments, right? That's another way what I've seen, which is probably not a good way, but I've seen that happen too. So for him, he the money he made, he bought, you know, apartment complexes and was collecting rent. When I joined in 1990, and then basically in really full time 92. At that time was a real estate depression, kind of a recession. The economy was really bad, and I remember as I was helping out and I was doing the business, doing exactly what my father was doing, because I thought, well, you know, might as well do something first with my life. We were losing money because, you know, people were not buying or not paying or whatever. It was a bad recession. It was a tough time to do business. So naturally I was thinking, and I was traveling a lot, and I said, naturally I was thinking, well, you know, I need to do something differently or else it just doesn't, this is not the right way.
Right.
So I said, well, what if we did retail? Because in retail, I could kind of control my own destiny a little bit, right? So I thought that was my own destiny, because in a retail business, I felt, well, at least you can market into your own environment. You can be in a place where maybe there's more wealth and disposable income, and it's a cash and carry. You sell something, people pay you, then you deliver the goods.
Right.
There's no risk there. You know, so it was different than whatever we did before. My father was in manufacturing and wholesale. So my father at that time was saying, okay, well, this if you want to take this on, if this is the career you want to take on, then the family business, and change it to do retail, I'll support you, but this is on you. You got to run it. I said, okay, I'm going to do that. I will do that, and I will come in the family business. And to me, because I think now then it's my own thing. I can shape it the way I want, right? It's retail. I can be home all the time. You know, if I have a family, I can spend time with my kids. I can be local. You know, I can bring the product. I can design my environment for my customers and myself. I can market the way I want, you know, and so forth. So I thought that was okay for me. That was good for me. So I went ahead and started doing that. And you know, I didn't know better. I wasn't in the watch business before, but I heard, you know, as that time, you know, it's important to have mentors or talk to people, a lot of people that are in the business, absorb. I was like a sponge. I really listened to a lot of people. And a lot of the people were saying, well, you know, in a retail store, you should have jewelry and watches. You know, the watches don't make a lot of money, but at least it may draw people in, or when people come in, the men look at watches and the women look at jewelry.
Right.
I said it makes sense. You know, you have to have a good product mix. So I decided to try to go into watches. It wasn't easy, because I wasn't known in the watches. Even you would think the jewelers, there's a lot of jewelers out there, and you know, I wasn't in watch business, so I had to prove myself. So it wasn't easy to get into it. But
how old were you when you started at this point?
I was 22, 23. Yeah. So fresh out of school, you know. But I did help my father enough to know the business to a certain extent. That a lot of that part I knew. I knew the product, I knew the salesmanship, I knew a lot of things from helping. But there was a lot of stuff I didn't know because a retail business is very different than a wholesale business. Now I'm glad I also went to USC because that gave me a lot of good foundation, so that it's not like trying to figure out on the fly. Okay, so there was a good foundation. So a lot of people think, should I go to college or not? I think college does bring a good foundation. Things that you can learn, pay to learn, you should pay to learn. Okay, things that you cannot learn, you have to learn on the fly. You have to learn by experience. That you have no choice. You have to learn by experience, by going through it. So why the things that you can pay for to learn that you want to just learn on the fly, right? Just so much more things to learn. Things that you have to learn with experience, then that's what you should concentrate on.
I love that. And then when you go to work on the business with your dad and you wanted to go retail, did that cause any kind of friction a little bit, or was your dad totally supportive of
He was very
your
supportive,
direction?
and that is, in talking to a lot of young people, they get a lot of pushback from their family, because, and rightly so, the family might be, well, we've been doing this for 30, 50 years.
Right.
If it's not broken, why change it?
Yeah, especially if as a 23-year-old kid, it's like, oh,
yeah,
they don't trust the
what do
kid.
you got? What do you know, right?
Right.
And so there's some of that. But my father, I think, in this way, and he was very old school in many ways, but in this way, he was really good. He trusted, He was able to utilize that I was driven and I was aggressive and I had the new ideas. I had the new, I had education, and that I would go and push.
You were hungry.
I was hungry. He used that part, but he also allowed me to, and he allowed my creativity. He went with it, he wasn't so much, well, no, you got to do it the old way. He understood, so that was really good for him to be open-minded about that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we were a really good partnership on that.
Powerful. And then the breakthrough happens when I know you said that you were looking to grow your retail business and you realized you needed something to catch people's attention, which was Rolex. And actually, it was because of this advice that I implemented something in my business that changed the game for me, which was go for the biggest you can first.
Right.
So could you share that story with us about how you
Sure.
got the Rolex?
Okay.
Because how you got them to be the authorized dealer, right?
Right.
That was kind of the breakthrough for the
Yes,
business.
I would say. So again, I opened my retail store in 1993.
The story is so crazy. I love it. You got to tell it.
And I would say everybody knew in the industry that if you had Rolex, that would be really strong, because Rolex were only in the best stores. Rolex, people would come to buy Rolex from everywhere because that's something they wanted, a desire brand, and so that would have drawn a lot of traffic. And they said that if you had Rolex, it would pay for your expense. It would cover the nut, cover the nut. And because it's not guaranteed that you would cover your nut as a business, as a retail store. There's no, you could lose money or you could make money. You never know. But with Rolex, at least it'll cover that. So everybody knew that. Everybody knew that was, but knowing that and being able to sell that is a different story. Now, Now, prior to me in the Asian market in the San Gabriel Valley, there was no authorized Rolex dealer. There was people bootlegging it. They were selling what they call gray market, but there wasn't authorized from Rolex, and they weren't legally determined by Rolex as a proper point of sale and service, and supplied by Rolex. So theoretically, even though it's new condition, they were used watches that other people were selling. We would be selling new watches and giving the warranty and guaranteeing it's genuine and no problems. So anyways, I applied for it right away. Obviously, you get a rejection letter right away. They're very nice, but it's a rejection letter right away. Because to them, they're like, we know everybody. We have reps out there. We know everybody that's around. I mean, we get there's thousands and thousands of jewelers out there that it doesn't qualify to be a Rolex dealer. So they just send letters, of course. So obviously, I got a rejection letter. And I said, wait a minute, what? At that time, I did something different. I was in a rental space. I really spent a lot of money on the build out. And a lot of people didn't do that because they figure, well, if this mall doesn't get popular, dies out, we jump to another mall, the money I invested, it's going to be gone. So why put so much money? But I did. I put, marble and wood and brass and everything. I spent a lot of money. So it was a high-end type of retail.
And that was a risk.
That was a risk, right? Because, you did that. But but sometimes no risk, no reward.
No risk, no Rari.
No risk, no Rari, for sure.
Yeah.
So anyways, I went ahead and did that, and then I had shot a video and sent it to Rolex, and they got it apparently, and they said, thank you for the video. There was a VHS cassette at that time. Just thank you for that, and again, we can't have any change in distribution, but if you happen to go to Basel World, we have it in March every year. If you happen to go to Basel World, and we can't give you an appointment because you're not a customer, but if you can go there and maybe get an appointment to talk to somebody, maybe they'll hear you out. I said, okay. So obviously this is the story that a lot of people like to hear about, which is, I would go to Switzerland. I've never been to Europe before at that time, right? I've been to Hong Kong, but I've never been to Europe. Don't know the language, don't know where to go. So I had to find my way to Basel, Switzerland, right? and that was really crazy.
A young man chasing his dream.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, and it was really far too, it was really far, and it was really planes and trains and automobiles to get to this place.
Yeah.
And then once I get to it, I was amazed because this convention was so big, Messaplex, so big, and inside it's like a little city. Like every watch company had a little building, and obviously Rolex had the biggest building.
Right.
So I went to the front counter, and I said, hey, I'm David Lee from Hinghwa Lee Jewelers. Here's my card. I would like to speak to somebody in the U.S. And they would make a call, and they say, everybody's busy right now in appointments. They can't see you. Come back to the next hour in the breaks, because everybody had 1 hour break, 1 hour meetings, and there's a break in between and another 1 hour. So maybe you can catch somebody. So okay, so I went there of course 9 o'clock. The first day, 9 o'clock. I went 10 o'clock. They said cannot. 11 o'clock. They said cannot. 12 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way till 5 or 6 o'clock. The whole day not available. I said okay, well that's normal. I don't have an appointment. Let me try the next day. So I go the next day again. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. 12 o'clock. Well, I went back. I just went to walk around and whatever. And I came back and
so just all day you're just
all
trying to
day
get
I'm
in.
doing that. And I know that nobody really does that. I just did that because I had to do it, right?
How old were you at this time? Mid-20s?
So this is this is in the very beginning, probably like 23 now, 23, 24.
Yeah.
Okay, I just started the business, and so again nothing on the second day. Struck out. Third day I had maybe half a day. I didn't think I would need more. When they're totally also not available. So I had to leave because my plane was leaving. So I said, well, I'll leave. So I went back, not all the way to Switzerland, spent all the money, went there, didn't get to see anybody. So, but I said to myself, I said, okay, well, didn't work out. That's normal. It's hard to get a Rolex dealership. It's not that easy. If it was that easy, nobody would be thinking it's that hard. But I'll go back. I'll sell what I can sell right now. I still have jewelry and stuff to sell. I'll come back next year. So I went back. I did that. Next year, I went back again, right? Okay, I went back again. This time a little more familiar because at least I've been there once. And so I went again, first day, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Again, the same thing, deja vu. It happened again. Nothing, no appointment, I said, wow, this is, I mean, I went back the second day. Now the second day, about I guess maybe 2 or 3 p.m., the lady said, "Wait a minute, the guy." And by this time they're familiar with me. They see me every hour. By this time they said, "Hey, wait a minute, a meeting got done early, and somebody can see you." I was so shocked, but I was also my adrenaline started going. I was like afraid at the same time.
Nervous.
Yeah, because now I have my chance, but now I can't mess up. This is what I came all the way for. And now I'm kind of scared, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, the dude came out. He was at that time the national sales manager, Alan Brill, and he was from New York, and he had this New York vibe to him. He was a Jewish guy, and he goes, "Hey, okay." He says, "Okay, David, you send me your videos, your letters and everything, and you were very persistent. Now you got me. I'll give you 1 minute to tell me why should Rolex open you?" So then of course, I told him everything, and that I think, I was so nervous. I told him everything, and after that, he said, "Thank you, David. Thank you for coming to Basel, Switzerland, seeing Rolex, and if anything changed, we'll let you know." And that was it. no indication of anything, right?
Yeah, so you're just sitting there replaying the conversation a million
Yeah,
times
on the plane
over.
back, I was replaying. Yeah, could I have said something better? Should I have said something that the guy would be like, yeah, we want you to, be our dealer and stuff.
Yeah.
And just nothing, right? So
And you flew there and back by yourself,
by myself, yeah,
just driven by your dream.
yeah, that's right.
How important, and I want to finish the story, but just I want to take away a lesson here. How important is it, and you, I mean, some of your clients are DJ Khaled. I mean, you worked with some of the most successful people on planet Earth, celebrities, business,
Sure.
icons. Don't you notice a pattern of stories like this where they took one-off chances? I mean,
Right.
How important is this for people around the world watching this to take chances like that on their dream?
Well, I think it's very important, right? And sometimes it's more than taking one chance, And actually, this is the story, of course, in Rolex, and it just so happened with timing and everything that it turned around quick for me. But there was other brands, for example, it took me 20 years to get. I would have to gone 20 years after something to get it, right? Some is 10, some is 15. So that means taking a chance doesn't mean one time. First, I thought you should take the chance, calculated chance. Second, it's not just one time. If you want chance of success to happen, you got to take more chances. You got to
years.
Yeah, it takes years. That's why my three pillar was working hard. And second, this perseverance idea is so important. And actually, talking to a lot of successful people, or the entertainment people, or business people, that is something that is consistent. Is perseverance. You cannot be somebody that's not persistent and succeed. I mean, it's very rare. I mean, so.
Yeah, makes sense. So going back to the story, second time you get the 1 minute with them,
Yeah.
no indication, now
Right.
you're on the flight back.
Yeah, I'm on the flight back. So I figure, you know what? In my mindset, I was thinking, okay, well, there's always next year. I'll sell what I got to sell, and I'll come back. I'm going to keep giving it a try.
Right.
I went back. So 6 months later, I got a call, and it was Doug Miney. He was a regional manager, and he says, "Hey, we're going to be around your area. Do you have time to see us?" And of course, I said yes. Right? He was there with the rep, so he came in and to meet me in my store there in San Gabriel, and I said, and he said, David, how would you like for Rolex to do business with you? And I said, I almost fell on the floor. I was, and I said, yes, of course I want, I want that. And so maybe shortly after that, we got sent the product, and we were opened in 1995 as the first kind of minority area or niche market Rolex dealer. you know.
Wow.
And that changed my life, like you said, because once you have Rolex, then the other brands want to give you their product because Rolex is already at the top. There's so much traffic.
So that was part of your mindset too, right? If I get Rolex, I can get Cartier, I can get all these other
right.
brands.
Because that's how it works.
You leverage one name for the others.
Right.
Kind of thing.
I mean, usually the way it normally happens is you start from a lower brand, and you move to a better brand, and you work it up, and at the end you work up to Rolex.
Right.
Normally, that's the pattern.
But you did the leapfrog.
Somehow, it was the right timing too. I mean, there's obviously a story behind that too, but it was the right timing for that to happen, and so forth. And the other thing I wanted to say about that was the behind story. So now that I've become a dealer, a Rolex authorized dealer, and I've proven that every year, I believe at that time, as a single store, I was producing the most sales as a one single store in the whole country. Okay?
In the country?
In the country,
for
yeah.
Rolex?
For Rolex, yeah. So
how did you do that?
It's just my market is very strong. You know, the Asian market is very strong for the product, right? So, and I facilitated for the Asian market. But I had now that I'm familiar with the Rolex management, I was having dinner with Alan Brill. And Alan Brill eventually became the president of Rolex USA. And but I was talking to Alan now that I'm more familiar with them, and we've been doing business, good business. He said, Alan, I said, why did you open me? And he said, at Rolex, we know everything. We're like the CIA. We know who's who. We know if you've been bootlegging Rolex, because we did, then you would get blacklisted.
Which is very common, actually, right?
Yeah. And we know if you're financially sound. We know your image, everything like that. They check everything out. They have a whole floor of people doing that.
Right.
So we know everything. So that on paper you were fine. We know you were going to treat us right. You're going to do the right thing. But there's still something that we cannot know is your sincerity. We have to look you in the eye. And this is what like young people, I tell people, you can't get in text, you can't get an email, you know, I mean, there's some business, important business, has got to be face to face. You got to look him in the eye, and the guy's got to trust you. The chemistry's got to be there. So when I was there in Switzerland, that one time, that 1 minute that I thought was, I don't know, I was trying to say whatever I said. He knew all the stuff I was going to say. It was already stuff that I wrote in the letters and everything.
Right.
But what he could get from the letter is looking in my eyes and knowing that this David Lee is going to treat me right. He's gonna back up the words he said, and he's not gonna let me down.
Right.
I can tell. Okay, and that you cannot get from email, text, or anything like that. So, anyways, that's the reason he opened me. So that minute, that I thought wasn't meaningful, was so meaningful, actually.
Yeah,
So
that 1 minute ended up changing your life.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's what happened there.
So right when you get the Rolex, does that change your entire business completely? Does that
yeah. I mean, every
change your
day I had people.
income,
Yeah,
change
every
your-
day I had people coming in asking for Rolex, and now we are able to sell them. Right, we're able to advertise. We have a Rolex dealer. Hinghwa Lee is the Rolex dealer, and then people see that, they all come.
Created
right?
hype.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's a miracle. Rolex does sell a lot, and it happened. I was in the right market. I told you, like, I was one of the most highest sales volume for one door in the country. So obviously that means a lot of customers, a lot of sales, right? And then of course, like I said, a lot of brands came in: Tiffany, Cartier, Bulgari. You know, all these brands came in and started to want me to be the authorized dealer, want me to also represent them. So I started able to then open more locations in Rolling Heights, and then in Pasadena and Irvine. So I had opened more locations. I was given more product, and I sell more, and to dominate the niche market that I had, which is the Asian market, which was in San Gabriel Valley for Southern California.
I love that. And Dave, can you share with the audience just some of who your customers are, some of the high level people, just because I know there's a lot of
Right.
big
You know,
names
I mean,
work with.
you know, it's really fun in this business that you could come across various people, right? And if you come to my office, I have this old school thing where you have pictures on the wall of all the celebrities or other famous peoples that you've sold to. But I've sold to Beyonce, I've sold to Paris Hilton, I've sold to, of course, in recent years, DJ Khaled, Offset, Cardi B, Justin Bieber, and let me see who else, Tommy Lee, you know, from Motley Crue, Jay Leno, of course. As a matter of fact, he's picking up 2 watches from me tonight. You know, at my house, he's coming to my house. He's bought 2 watches to give to his team. So, so all the time, there's, you know, various peoples.
And in terms of the success you've learned, because obviously it's one thing to, you know, become successful. It's another thing to sustain that success and park into investments. You know, what advice do you have for people on? I know you share, you know, different tactics about success, but on keeping success, maintaining success. What are some pillars of mindset for you that have helped you, not just, you know, quote unquote make it, but keep it, grow it, replicate it?
That's the important thing. You know, some people say, well, you know, David, you got a good start because your father was in the business and you took over. But maintaining success, like you say, is the tough thing, or building on it. And of course, in my case, when I took over my father's business, I think I would say that I had increased it 100 times, 100 folds in revenue, and so that's difficult to do. But what I feel is, first of all, my 3 pillars that I felt was what brings success, but what keeps success too, and that's working hard, perseverance, and integrity. Obviously, in each one, there's a lot of details and understanding on that, but there's also, you need to be able to be aware of your industry, what's going on, and being able to change with the times. I hear some people that do things last 30 years the same. You know, they've done it that way, it's worked, why change it? And they're reluctant to change. And that's human behavior, we know that. But when you don't change, and the competition does change with the times, you're actually falling back. You're not staying the same, you're falling back. If you don't improve, situation will happen. So, so that's something that, so you always have to be in the game. You have to be knowledgeable. I also think a lot of people want to try to start doing everything. You know, do what you understand, do what you know. Don't be too greedy. Don't be overconfident at your abilities, because once you start doing something you don't know, then you're basically gambling. That risk is not a calculated risk anymore. It's gambling. So when you do something that is a calculated risk, investment, then it's a different story. But if you start doing things that is gambling, that's where you lose money. And that's where it could affect your initial business that was bringing you income, because now you put that at risk.
Listen, we'll be back to the interview in a sec, but first, I wanted to let you know that if you're enjoying this podcast, and I really hope that you're enjoying this podcast, then I think you'll absolutely love my brand new and 100% free Facebook group for entrepreneurs just like you, who are passionate about what they're doing in the world and really passionate about sharing their products, services, building their brand, and really creating that brand on video that can really last. How does this work? Well, it's very simple. All you got to do is click the link in the description below right now and fill out 3 quick questions to join the 100% free Facebook group so that you can learn all the 6, 7, and 8-figure strategies that entrepreneurs are using all around the world in present day and real time today that you can implement to grow your brand and business using video and telling and sharing your story that you're so passionate about with your customers and ideal audience in the process. So again, all you got to do is click the link in the description below now, join the Facebook group, and there you'll learn all the strategies 100% free. So that's it. And now, with no further ado, let's get right back to our interview with none other than the inspiring David Lee.
Yeah. And what was your biggest mindset challenge or biggest limiting belief or obstacle you had to overcome in your journey? I'm sure there was many, but are there any in particular that as you look back on, there were particular beliefs that you had to shift around for people watching who might want to kind of break through their own limitations of, that's not possible,
Right.
You know, anything in particular that sticks out? It's one
Well,
of the
I think first of all, don't limit your dream. If you limit your dream, you're halfway there, to your dream, a quarter where you may not be. Set your dreams really high, and so even if it's half, it could be wildly successful and happy. So don't limit yourself to one thing. The second thing is it seems like want to be in a hurry. Is they don't have the patience. You don't want everything now, and a lot of things takes time to come to fruition, and takes a long time of grinding it out. So I felt like in the past, I could have been more patient with certain things, been more careful, and it would have been better. And also being able to accept short-term failures or kind of setbacks, because there's been some setbacks, and that seemed very devastating at the time, and I was really worried, I overstressed about it and so forth, but just hanging in there and sticking with it and keep doing the thing you're doing, you can come back from it. And so I've had also a lot of comebacks as well. So that's what I would say about that.
What's the biggest misconception you think most people have about success in terms of, I'm sure you get so many questions every day, what's the biggest misconception you think most people have about it?
About success? Well, I think that obviously people think having success, having a lot of money, being able to buy stuff, they'll be happy. Will solve all the problems. And having monetary wealth does solve a lot of problems, but that doesn't make you happy either. So, so the key, a lot of people, not everybody, I guess, could make to that financial status or amount that they wish for. I would say not everybody's going to make it like that. That's why there's a lot less wealthy people than there are in general people.
Right.
So you can't judge your happiness, your fulfillment of life on success. And success is the only way. Success does bring a lot of convenience to you, but it's not the key to the happiness.
It's not the end all be all.
Because end all be all. So that you have to find what is the things that's going to make you happy and fulfill, and if you could also include success in that as a situation that brings more convenience to you, or in my case, the success I'm able to use to help a lot of people in philanthropy and things like that. I can donate money. I can and donate these resources to help a lot of people. That also brings a lot of joy to me. So, that's being used in, I guess, the proper way.
I know, I love hearing that. And also I do want to ask you about the Ferrari and your love for it and where that came from. But before we get into that, I want to ask, what would the young David, seeing now you're in this $40 million car collection of cars, you're doing what you love, you're inspiring millions of people. What would the this David today say to that young David who is looking for answers and so hungry and frustrated and has a burning desire? Just because there's people around the world watching, men, women, of all ages, who might have a dream they're pursuing, and they see you now on the side of the fence living the dream, right?
Yeah.
But to that young David who didn't know that he would one day be living his dream, being on this side of the fence, what advice do you have for people aspiring and trying to really get to that level, knowing what you know now?
Sure. I would say, when I was in a hurry and I wanted to come out of the gate and be an entrepreneur and start a business and make money right away. We know the statistics shows that maybe 97% of the business fail like that. And so, but that is what I did. And of course, luckily I was in a family business, so I was guided by my father also. But I'd say not everybody has that opportunity. I would say the smartest advice to go about it, and I've seen this replicated so many times, is to, first of all, think about what kind of industry or business you like to be involved with. That would make you happy, you would enjoy every day working in it. And, they say if you're working in it every day and it's something you love, then it's not like working at all. But think about that and know that, go and work for that best company, that does that you would love. Work for them. Spend the time, spend a few years to work, learn the business, see if it's really what you think, see if what is the real deal of the business. Do a good job, get promoted, let people see that you have the performance. Make friends with the coworkers that could later on maybe come aboard with you. See if the company has some business that's left on the table that it's not, let's say, in their line, or not not the size that they want to do, but it could be good for you. You see the demand, you see the opportunities. There you can jump in and maybe come and do that. Now I've seen a lot of people that do that. They start a business where the big business that they were working for wasn't going to take on. The customers knew that you were the one working and you're the one that made it happen in advance and was the performance guy. So they trust you. If you were to come out on your own, they probably could get a better deal from you because you're starting out. You can also bring along people in the company that you saw was very good, that was helpful into your company. And then you start out and you go in this and you started this new business with solid ground, knowing that there's a demand, there's a business, and it works. And you maybe spent whatever amount of time, which they paid you to work for them, but then it's just solid. Then it's just proper and solid way of learning. I mean, I guess if I was going to be in the jewelry business, I should have worked for the best jeweler in America. Spend, whatever, 3 years or whatever.
Yeah,
learn.
step by step, instead of trying to skip steps and fall,
learn.
step by step.
Learn and see what it really is, how to do it, instead of trying to figure out myself, making the mistakes. Because some mistakes, you're going to make some mistakes. It's okay. You come back from some mistakes you cannot come back from. You want to be able to learn those lessons. So I think that's what I would tell myself or the people that are watching your channel. Spend time, work. Give it a good best effort. Learn in the process. Do a good job for that company. Perform. Be recognized. Okay, and keep your eyes open for the opportunities. You'll see them. It's there.
Beautiful. And then before we wrap up, I do want to ask two more quick ones. Is how important do you find branding is, especially nowadays in the age of social media, when it comes to having success in the business? Obviously, branding and marketing, something you're known for. You have a lot of these events, which is how we got to connect with your shows at at your shops, and people bring out their Ferraris and cars. You bring out great people.
Right.
But our agency, we help clients as well, build their brand on YouTube. There's a lot of different stuff we do. So how important do you think personal branding is, and why do you put so much emphasis with it as it relates to building your business?
Sure.
What advice do you have for people on that?
Yeah, I think now in today's environment, personal branding or company branding is so important because branding is really like my third pillar, integrity. How do people know that you can be trusted? Well, your branding is really telling people who you are and can you be trusted. You can be branded as somebody not trusted. You can be branded as somebody to be trusted. And I think that in my case, people know that I don't trick anybody. I don't try to take advantage. I'm a straight shooter. I'm an honest guy, and I do business that way. In that way, everybody wants to do business with you. They want to buy from you. I mean, the people coming out of state, they want to buy from me. People want to give me, you say, well, a lot of people want to get investors and people to support their business. I don't really do that. I don't need to ask for that, but there's so many people that want to. Money's coming from everywhere. It's not even a
Right.
problem to try to, if I wanted the money,
Right.
because they know that you're not going to, you will not
people
screw
over.
people over. That's not your MO.
Right.
And so that's part of integrity, and that's what personal branding is about. And of course, also branding showing that you do know what you're doing. You are successful. You do know what you're doing, so when you do those things, you're going to be most likely experienced and successful.
Trusted,
But so that's what branding is about. It's almost like it's a social media business card, really, right? We used to give business cards and people, but now everything's so fast on the online. Everybody knows about you. Before every meeting, you Google somebody, about
Right.
them. So personal branding is really an extension of that.
Yeah, and investing into that for the long run. for the
Yes,
business,
yes.
Now, of course, we have to ask you,
Yes.
why do you love Ferrari so much? and one thing I have to say, and I'm glad I'm saying it on camera.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, since as young as I can remember, my dream was, as soon as I saw a red convertible Ferrari, I fell in love. So I'm sure you know the dream.
Sure.
And so it's funny because I used to always write down that my dream was to collect a dozen Ferraris.
Okay.
And my family's home is in Walnut.
Ah.
So how ironic that one of the most famous Ferrari collectors of my dream is from the area, and it would be you.
Oh, boy.
So it's an honor to interview you. But
Thank you.
I want to ask you, what is it you love so much about Ferrari? Because here we're surrounded by, your SF90, you have your classics, your F50, F40, you got the Enzo, 275 GTB. You got them all. I mean, what is it about Ferrari you love so much?
Well, first of all, I would have to believe that, like it or not, when we see in the car show, little kids, they come, they know all about the cars, more than you do almost. And I think we're born in a way to be attracted by cars. I think, various people are born different way. And I felt that I was born that I love cars. I love cars even, when I was third grade, when the teacher said, go to the library, pick a book that you like. I picked out the Italian sports car book, and I remember I was a good drawer, so I would draw by memory how it looked like, cars and stuff. When I was 16, I had the Countach poster in the wall. I know a lot of people did too, but I really loved it. And that was also my dream. Like I wanted to, it was in a way driven that I said, one day I want to get that. And actually I did tell myself, I want to get it before I'm 30.
Yeah.
I want to be able to afford one before I was 30. Now, I ended up buying a pre-owned Lamborghini Diablo VT, a 1991 early version, when I was 29. So I was able to kind of get my dream on that.
Yeah.
That was my first exotic. And I always just, from there on, wanted to have one special car on the side, like a weekend car. And I would have my regular car, daily driver, and then so I had a Porsche 911 Turbo 993, which I wish I kept, but I didn't. Of course, I had the Lamborghini Diablo VT, and then I changed to my first Ferrari. Quickly after that was a pre-owned 355 Spider, and it was, from then on I just kept staying with Ferrari. I would trade out every few years into a Ferrari. And I just kind of stuck with it. After that it was 360 and 430 and so forth. And I would say about 10 years ago, I decided, I want to buy Ferraris or cars that would be would appreciate in value, not lose money. So at that time, I had bought the Enzo. Enzo was really my first one of the collection.
Which is beautiful. This one here.
Yeah, no, and it's gone crazy in price.
I love it. How much does this go for now? This Enzo.
Well, Enzo just recently at the Pebble Beach auction, black one, 17,000 miles, which is a lot of miles, went for like 3.8.
3.8 million.
Yeah, mine is, and so these cars are very mileage sensitive, right? Mine's like 5,000 miles, so you can imagine how much it's worth, right? So, I think it's probably well over 4 million if that's the case for my car. Yeah. But I went to a friend's house and that was cool. I mean, I didn't really have the bug yet. I just wanted a hypercar, right? And that time it was Enzo. But then when I went to my friend's house and I saw, he goes, David, I got something cool to show you. So what is it? And he got a classic car, a Jaguar E-Type, needed work. So by the end of the evening, I said, I got to get a classic car. I mean, I never was interested in before, but after that time, I said, okay. But I said, I want to buy a Ferrari. So I did the research and everything. And I started looking into selling on a 275 GTS, a convertible, a Ferrari.
Beautiful
and,
car,
you know, but in that process, I thought, wow, there's a lot of, what I found out is that, wow, you know, these cars, these classic cars, or even, it's like art. You enjoy looking at it. To me, it's like art because I appreciate it. You can drive it. You can be engaged and drive it, and be, you know, all the feelings you get, like, you know, on that. Which, and then it goes up in value. It's been you know, 30 years. You can see the line. It goes up in value. So I said, what's better than that? You know. So I started to invest in that, and so my philosophy was that to I just felt that, like, you know, it would be more important to be important to one brand, to be known for something, one brand, than not important to any brand. And if you just buy all kinds of different brands, like, it's cool, but you're not going to be you're not going to be well known for anything.
Right.
So I just, as a, you know, as a strategy, I'll just do a Ferrari because, you know, I've been buying that one Ferrari all along, and why don't I just stick with the Ferrari?
Might as well commit.
Might as well commit.
Might as well be the Ferrari collector.
Be a Ferrari collector. And, you know, I'm at limits of resource. I couldn't collect everything, a lot of everything, right? So I figured, okay, how about Ferrari?
Yeah.
And so, and it turned out to be good because I'm very recognized for Ferraris. And of course, I know once you're in one brand, you start to know a lot about that brand. You have a lot of opportunities because people want to sell you that brand. And I've made you know, all my cars I bought are investments, and they've gone up a lot too.
So you literally have made millions collecting Ferraris and getting to enjoy them.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that that's
You have
a
your
good
cake,
thing.
eat it too,
Yeah,
and sell it.
Yeah.
How many Ferraris would you say at this stage you've owned that have gone through your ownership?
Oh, gone through my ownership, in and out, I would say 70 maybe. You know?
70 Ferraris?
Yeah, 70s.
And totaling, how much would you say? Just ballpark figure in terms of Ferraris.
In value, you
In
mean?
value, yes.
Wow, let's see here. I would say, I don't know, maybe also like 60, 70 million.
Worth of
value.
Ferraris?
Yeah, worth of values, yeah.
What is it about the brand of Ferrari in particular for you that stands out above all?
You know, I think at first it was very elementary that it's Italian, so there's a lot of great design. It gives you a lot of passion. You can see it in the design, but it was also, the engineering was you know, certainly better than Lamborghini at the time, and not as good as Porsche, but then they had more flair, and had more passion in Ferrari than German. So Ferrari was just more consistent and less temperamental as an Italian brand, and obviously, if in the auction results, and if you look at industry, Ferrari has the biggest success in appreciation and value. Okay, and of course, still right now is the most expensive car auctioned. So, and there's a lot of models that do well too with Ferrari. So it was just a best brand to hang your hat on, and it was hard to, and even now, I mean, it's a very big demand brand. I mean, to get the new limited edition cars is very hard to get. It's not because you have money you can be offered that, right?
Right.
So that's the other thing. I said, well, if I want to be recognized to be able to get the new ones, I want to be able to recognize by Ferrari. Why would they recognize me? Well, if somebody that only collects Ferraris, that only drive Ferraris and drive Ferraris 7 days a week. That was my logo kind of in the back. That was my slogan.
And you have cars dating back from the 1960s all the way to brand new ones
present.
today.
Yeah. So I in my collection, although it's not the biggest in numbers, it's all the iconic ones, and you can see the evolution from 1964 to the present. And in my collection, you will see that, and so that's kind of special.
I love it. Now, Dave, before I wrap up, I'm going to ask one more question, but someone told me to write in and ask, what are your top, from your whole collection that you've driven, what are your top 3 favorite Ferraris as of today that you have? Okay.
Well, I would say my 1985 288 GTO, and that's because, well, it is first supercar of Ferrari, and I do love driving it, and I love the way it looks. But in high school, besides the Countach poster that I had, I remember I was buying, I had switched to Road and Track. And I remember that at that time, the Road and Track was when they first reviewed the 288 GTO. And I remember looking at it, and it was like so beautiful. It was so aggressive and strong. And it was something that I thought, well, it's a dream to be able to own. I mean, there's no way I would ever be able to own. That's like other people. But it was a dream that I wish I could have. So the fact that I bought it, it was a dream come true for me. And then, of course, I do love it too and everything. So that would be one of them. The other one would be I would say the Enzo, because it was meaningful that it's the first, in my collection and still here of really collecting and collecting in a way. It was the first that I won. So that's also special to me. And then my modified Dino, what I call the Monza 3.6 Evo, taking the Dino, which was beautiful. There's a big cult following. A lot of people love the Dino, but the complaint for the last 50 years was it wasn't fast enough. Why couldn't a Ferrari made it faster? Why did they put a V6 engine? And in my journey of modifying it, using all Ferrari parts in period that they could have used to do it. So I wasn't using stuff that's 20 years later. It was all in period within the 10 years. Let's say the next Dino they would have came out with. They could have put a V8. They could have used this part and that part internally to make it a way that all the customers would have loved it, would have expected and loved it. And being able to go on that journey and really not having a budget and not knowing where it's going to end up and create that, after creating that car, and I would say a lot of people were satisfied, was really happy that what I did with it and how I did it, that it created something unusual. It's only one in the world right now. So it's very special.
One of one.
One of one.
Oh man, Dave, just like your story. All right, last question for the audience at home and people around the world is, for people who are seeking to go out there and live their dream, maybe they want to make a lot of money, but maybe they have limited beliefs. Maybe their family didn't make a lot of money, right? Maybe they're looking for the right vehicle. Maybe they don't know if they should invest or, what vehicles, right? Because not all vehicles are equal.
Right.
Obviously, it's a loaded question, but for people out there around the world who are hungry for those answers, but maybe feel stuck or feel like they just don't know how to break through, what would David be, his best 60 seconds piece of advice to someone out there to really go out there, make their dreams reality, make the money they want to make the investments they want to get, and turn the vision inside their head and their hearts into a reality?
Right. Well, like I said earlier, that the best way, the most solid and a solid way to go about it. Okay, and like I said, not everybody's born with resources from home and so forth. So I respect that, but everybody could, like I said, go and work for a company that is in the field that they like. Okay, work for them, learn about the business, and perform. See if you can perform. Sometimes maybe you can't perform. You think you can do well. If you can't do well in that company, how can you do well on your own? Okay, do well in the company. Maybe it's another company. You can train to another industry, another way.
Try things.
Try things. Don't be afraid to try things. But that's but not necessarily in the mindset that I'm going to work for somebody for the rest of my life. You know that you want something more. You're going to come out and start your own. But why do it on a risk? When you do it without knowing, it's a risk. Okay, it's a gamble. But if you work in that industry, you have experience. You saw what's going on. You will know for a fact. First of all, do you like it? Do you enjoy it? And do you want to, continue to go with this? If not, then change. Find a place where you are happy at and you're good at, and then from there you see the opportunities, and go with the opportunity. That's just a strategic, smart, makes sense way to go about it, instead of just shooting out from anywhere and trying to just make it happen. And that's really a risk. Like I said, the statistic says 97% is failure. Maybe even more, 98%. 1% maybe is success, and those are just a lot of times by luck, by chance. Why do that? Why be against the odds? Why not take a more steady,
slowly but surely,
and make sense way? I know people make a lot of money that way. They've come out and make a lot of, and have a lot of Ferraris, a lot of cars, big homes, still doing from the same formula. It's not hard to understand.
And then that way you build the confidence, and then you take the risk from a leveraged position.
Right, and you have the experience.
Right, and like they say, no risk, no Rari. You guys heard it here from the Ferrari collector himself. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode with David. David, thank you so much for having us here in your garage.
Thank you.
Guys, make sure to follow David in the description below. Check out his YouTube channel, all his social media handles. His stuff is amazing. And also make sure to like, comment, and smash that subscribe button so you can tune in for episodes every week. Until next time, live strong, live with passion, and go out there and chase those dreams. And remember, no risk, no Rari.
Thank you so much for enjoying this episode on the Passionate Few podcast today. As always, I wanted to remind you to smash that subscribe button right now and turn on the post notification bell because we have some of the most unbelievable and inspiring interviews coming up very soon, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. And also, don't forget, if you're an entrepreneur that would like to grow your business using YouTube, but you've always struggled and wondered how you could, well, you're in luck. Because if you check out the description below right now, you can now join my 100% free 7-Figure CEO Strategies Facebook group, where we uncover some of the strategies that are working on YouTube in present day, as well as allow you to be part of a group of like-minded entrepreneurs from around the world who are also interested in learning some of the best kept secrets for helping them grow their business with YouTube. Want to find out more? Simply click the link below, fill out the questions in the Facebook group, and I look forward to seeing you either there or in the next inspiring